Hey guys, so in this video, I wanted to share with you how do you stand with confidence, because you aren't born with confidence and it's not necessarily an easy thing to acquire, but there is a bit of a process for how you get to a point where you are confident and where you can stand with confidence. So I'm going to share with you what that process looks like. And in order to get you to understand this, the best way I know how to do that is share the journey that I took to a point where I was able to stand with confidence and get some amazing results with it, which I'll share with you in this little story. So the example I'm going to give is when I wanted to get into the coaching and consulting space. And specifically, I wanted to learn how to sell high price packages in front of an audience. And so how do I go through a workshop, at the end of that workshop, pitch a high price product and get a number of people to buy into that as a service? Now you've got two options. When you're looking to learn any skill, you can learn that skill yourself, or what I think is a great method is, if you have the capability, find the best person in the world at that skill, or the best person in the world that will take you on, so your highest level opportunity, and go and learn it from that person. And if you have that as an opportunity, I think that's the way to go. So when I was wanting to learn this process, what I did is there's some high level guys out there. For instance, you could say, okay, I could go learn from Tony Robbins, and you could argue I could go learn from him. But really, in the reality of who would actually take me on and teach me this skill, he's probably a few levels ahead of what I'd be capable of. So within my networks, I found a guy that was out in Australia, and he was selling high price marketing courses from workshops, from stage, and he was doing that really successfully, really well. And so I reached out to him because that was my closest opportunity from the highest level individual that I had within my network, within my opportunity to learn from. And I reached out to him and said, hey, would you mind just jumping on a Zoom call and explaining to me some of your process on a Zoom call? I'm interested in this business model. I'm thinking about pursuing it. Is that something you'd be willing to do? We were part of a mastermind group together. And so he said, yeah, sure, I'll explain that to you. And I was in Canada, he was in Australia. That conversation, after about an hour, I knew enough that I knew I wanted to learn from him. And I said, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing in the next few days? He was like, I don't know, I'm going to hang around the office. Why? And I said, I'm going to come visit you. And he said, to come to Australia? And I said, yeah. And I literally booked a plane ticket on that call, and I flew to Australia. And I began learning from him, learning how to sell from stage. And it's easy to watch someone do it. It's a much different thing to do it yourself. That relationship ended up turning into a partnership. I think he was attracted to my determination, my ability to take action. And so that turned into a partnership. And what happened was I ended up flying back to Canada, and then I had to try this thing out, sell from stage. And I'd given some presentations from stage when I was with him in Australia, but I'd never done the full thing. And I definitely had never sold. And so I came back to Canada. I was so nervous trying to put together my first presentation. And I did everything I could do to try and market that thing and get people into the room. And I practiced and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced that presentation, because in my head, everything was riding on me nailing that first presentation. I was like, if I mess this up, that's the end. Like, there's no more opportunities. And so I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced that presentation. Finally came to the day to do it. Went to the room. I had worked my butt off to get 20 people registered for that event. I went to the room and 3 people showed up. And you can imagine right off the bat, I was pretty dejected. And then for whatever reason, people they kind of trickled in over time. So I had, I think, 11 people in the first hour that kind of trickled in over the course of a 3-hour presentation. I gave my presentation, and then of course I tried to sell at the end. I tried to sell a high price package, a $10,000 marketing consulting package, and one person laughed and everybody just got up and left, and nobody took me up on my offer. And after the last person left the room, I sat in one of the chairs in the front row and I just started crying, because I had never felt so embarrassed in my life and so dejected and rejected. And I thought that was it. Like, I'm not cut out for this. I can't do it. And Christo in Australia ended up phoning me and asking how it went. And I told him I completely bombed it. And he said, hey man, listen, the point of doing anything new for the first time is not to get an amazing result. If you do, that's great, but that's not the norm. The point of doing anything when you're new to it is just to do it. Just do it, just get it over with. And set set a number of times that you're going to try this thing before you say you're going to give it up. And one is not enough. You got to set at least 10 times where you say, I'm going to go and do this thing. I'm going to do it at least 10 times. And if it's a complete and utter failure, then maybe I'll come up with a different plan. But I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it and try it. And not only am I going to do it, but do it and look back, review, do a hard review of how you did that task or how you did that thing, and ask yourself, what did I suck at? What was the biggest thing I sucked at in that? And how am I going to get better at it? And then not only how am I going to get better at it, but how am I, or when am I going to schedule the time to focus on getting better at that thing? Because it's one thing to say, here's how I'm going to get better at it. You need to actually, at least for me, you need to put that in your calendar. So that's what I did. That first presentation sucked. I had friggin' PTSD getting on stage the second time for sure. Second presentation, I think I ended up having maybe 20 people in the room. Didn't sell any packages. I pitched it, nobody bought. And I was so dejected again. And I said, well, I said I would do this 10 times, so I'm going to go back out there and do it again. And my third presentation had slightly over 20 people in the room and sold one. I sold one person into that package. And I definitely wasn't getting high on that, but I was like, I can do this. I sold one person into this package. And that was a $10,000 program, so that's pretty awesome. What I can tell you guys now is that in one go, there's been times when I've sold $150,000 after a 3-hour presentation. There's a lot of power in that, but it took me probably 40 presentations to get there. And I can also tell you that I can stand on a stage now and I can stand there really confidently, even if I don't even know what I'm supposed to be talking about. If I just go stand there and there's a Q&A, or if the topic is just heaped on me, whether it's business or marketing related, and just saying, hey, I need you to speak on this topic, right away, I have got content that I can speak on. But that did not happen in the beginning. In the beginning, I was flustered. I wasn't eloquent in my speech patterns. I was all over the place and I wasn't getting results. It took the dedication of saying, I suck at this thing and I need to get better at it, to just push through it, and make sure it works. There's a quote that I found really interesting by a guy named Garrett White, and it's resonated with me. And he said, when you try anything new in the beginning, you're gonna suck at it. But your goal is to do it again and just make sure you suck at it a little bit less the second time you do it. And do it again and suck at it a little bit less the third time you do it. And if you keep doing that, you're gonna suck less and less and less. Eventually, you're gonna get to a point where you suck so little that you might actually be good. And that's my story. It wasn't like I was just a natural born speaker and that's where I came into that role. I had to suck a number of times before I actually could stand with confidence and know what I was talking about. So whatever the task is, whether it's coaching or public speaking, or maybe it's something completely unrelated to that, here's what you need to do. You need to say, I'm dedicating time to do this task, this thing, at least 10 times. Because most people give up after 7. That's usually as far as most people make it. So set yourself 10 times to go through that task. Remind yourself that the first time, the first 2 times, the first 3 times, the point of doing it is just to do it. Don't focus on the end result. Just focus on the action of doing it and asking yourself, how can I review this and how can I get better? And when am I going to schedule that time in my calendar to get better? So your homework from this is schedule going and doing that thing, whatever that thing is, go and do it. That thing you're scared to do it, and don't worry, don't tie yourself to the end result. Just remind yourself that the first time you do something, the point of doing it the first time is just to do it. And then make sure you schedule 10 times after that, and make sure you schedule time to review and time to focus on the action you need to take to get better at that thing. All right. So those are the steps. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.